Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video on Neeko. Now, I am super excited about this champion. She is so much fun. She's going to add a lot more spice to the game with her passive and with her really unique kit. So I just wanted to give you guys 5 tips that you might have not heard before. We're going to go pretty in-depth, not just covering the base kit, and hopefully we can get you out there playing Neeko. The reason I wanted to release this on the release date, just right when she comes out, is because I want someone to have a little bit of base knowledge before they bring it into my solo queue games. So hopefully this will help one person that I play with, so I don't have to deal with a completely noob Neeko. Now, I want to talk about a really important trading pattern that you can use when you are playing her in a lane. So, with her passive on her W, a really important part is not only the bonus damage, it scales really well, but it is the bonus movement speed. So this is going to help you get into a better location for your before you're throwing out your combo, and without using your W. So you can auto attack a minion, you get the increased movement speed like you had there, and then you can EQ and do however your combo, however you want to play it. But the most important part for tip 1 here is utilizing this huge thing. This 40% movement speed on a secondary passive is just a huge thing that you should abuse. It's equivalent to what Zoe has on her W, how it's just kind of thrown in there as something extra. I have a feeling like these are going to get nerfed, but just for tip 1, make sure you're using that auto passive to position in just the most advantageous way, and that will wrap up tip number 1. Alright, let's get into tip number 2. Now, I know that a lot of people are taking her into the jungle, but what I think is kind of lost on a couple people is that Neeko is extremely good in lane due to her ability to throw abilities over minions. Which is kind of lacking with certain mages that have to, like, for example, like a Xerath E can't go through it, a Karma Q can't go through it, and they're kind of hindered by minions. But in fact, she is amplified by minions and allowing you to get off several procs of your Q if it kills something, and then it just keeps continuing to bloom with the max 2 extra blooms. So I feel like she is going to be a great laner with her really strong auto attack range. So if you've been playing a lot of her in jungle, I really recommend you take her into the lane, just due to her gank assist on her E, her pretty safe laning phase once she gets her W, and can get that movement speed and the stealth to get away and the root to get people away. This is just a very safe pick. I think she's in an extremely strong spot. Do not confine yourself to the jungle when you are playing Neeko, because her ability to harass people through minions is really unparalleled, and just like a basic standard trade that you would want to take in lane would be, you would just want to charge up your passive on your W and then look for a root on them. When the root hits, Q, and then you would weave in autos as you see fit there, just depending on what their threat level is. So keep this in mind. And as always, if you guys have any questions about the kind of the play style that I'm preaching here, is very similar to a lot of other mages, just let me know in the comments down below, and I will try my best to help you. Alright, let's jump into tip number 3. Now, this is actually going to be a really it's going to vary a little bit with from game to game, and it's going to require a little bit of critical thinking on your part when you are looking to best use your passive. I kind of am going to go over 4 different ways to use it. All of these are represented by one archetype here. First up, you can transform into someone that is going to have a low threat range, so it can get you into a good range to get your E, because they don't think that you can reach them with any spells. And Nasus is a good example of that, because he has a very low threat range, because he has to get on top of you and Q, he has to W and kind of chase you down a bit. So transforming into a champion with kind of no mobility is a great way to bait people in with your E. Next up, we have someone like Blitzcrank. Now, this can work really well if you're a jungler and you are looking to gank and force out flashes. A lot of the times you can just run up to people, you don't even have to throw out your hook, and you can just kind of use the threat that these champions have with extremely long hook ranges to force out summoners where maybe otherwise they wouldn't be too threatened by your little bit of a shorter duration route going on them. The third archetype that I really want to talk about that I think is going to bring the most fun to playing Neeko is kind of the person that's really far behind and very susceptible. So say you have a feeding teammate. Now you can weaponize your shitty feeding teammates that your guys are always telling me about. So you just pretend to be, oh, I'm that 0-10 Kog'Maw on the bot lane and there's an assassin in the enemy lane. And you just kind of go to farm in a lane and wait for him to come, and you will be able to surprise him. Hopefully, if he doesn't catch on to the ruse, and beat them in a 1v1 by baiting them in while you are disguised as a very weak opponent. And lastly, the fourth archetype I wanted to talk about with using your passive. It's going to be represented by Wukong because he snowballs very hard. Now, if you want... say you're running around kind of in a bush and you're getting chased and you have your passive up and you really just want to get away, the best way is to show strength. So transform into the person that's the most fed on your team, and they might run away just due to the fear that they know that that person is extremely strong right now. Those are the four types that I see right now that you can use your passive. Obviously, it seems like there's going to be a crap load of different ways to use it, but let me know what you guys think. If you use any of these to any success, let me know. I'd love to hear it. And if you figure out a new way to do it that you really want to share, I would love to hear your ideas on it as well. Okay, and let's get into tip number 4. Now, I just want to go over just kind of the damage portfolio that you have when you are playing with Neeko, due to it being very new, and it is actually really divergent with the different AP scalings on the different abilities. First up, we have the Q that's at about 50% AP scaling, and then it has a 20% on additional. The W bonus magic damage is a 60% on those auto attacks, so those autos are going to be extremely important to weave in. Next up, we have the E with the 40% AP scaling, so a bit low. But then we have a ult with 130% AP scaling, just a ridiculous amount of damage coming out of your ult. So I want you to look a little bit at her like a Veigar, because Veigar has an extremely strong ultimate that does a crap load of damage. Even though that it's AoE, completely different spell, not an execute or anything like that, but it's just most of your power is going to be centered around your R. So say you duel someone in the jungle and you're losing at level 5. If you encounter them at level 6, the game is just completely changed because of the power of this ultimate is absolutely insane. Also, the scaling on the W passive auto is going to be pretty crazy too. Like, if you can look for like a nuke, if you're playing something like with Lichbane, like you're really snowballing and you want to try out that item, just one auto attack with the Lichbane proc in your W does 851 damage. I mean, that's just a ridiculous amount of damage. But I just want to have you guys go into your game with a clear mindset of your E's not really going to do too much. Your Q isn't going to do that much unless it's kind of on a rooted target with minions blowing up and having additional blooms get on top of them. And then your ultimate is really where your finisher comes. And then obviously she's going to have a rather large skill cap, because the more you weave in autos with her, your damage output can just skyrocket if you are doing a lot of autos in your fights. So just understanding and abusing her auto range, which, I mean, look at how long this auto range is. It's pretty ridiculous. So that will wrap up tip number 4. All right, and let's get into the last tip. Now, I'm going to preface this a little bit by saying that I watch quite a bit of Pink Ward just because I find Shaco's very interesting gameplay to watch. and just kind of the clone mechanics are very interesting. So I wanted to kind of pass this on to you guys, and maybe you try it out in a game. When you're using W, you might want to try and be the one that is running towards the enemies, be the one that they don't expect to be. So say you have two people chasing you right here, you're getting ganked in top lane and you decide to run down the river. If you throw out your W, like going there, so they're gonna probably guess that the real you is the one running and continuing that way. I mean, what person in their right mind would want to would run straight at them in a 2v1? So just keep this in mind. You can use mind games with your W. Don't always just make it the most obvious thing of how you're throwing out your W and where it's gonna go. Also, this is an extremely important thing with your W, is it is your get out of jail free card. So once you have used your W, it is kind of, you're committed to the fight. If you are Wing in, you just need to really make sure that you win that 1v1 or it's a good engage for you, because this is your primary escape tool. You can use your E and R obviously to get away with the root and stun, but the W is going to be your most efficient way. So look at it as a little bit out of kind of like an anti-dive. If like a Talon's going on you, because you are going invisible, and it will stop his burst and it's going to confuse him on which target to go on. So your W is going to be one of your most effective defensive tools. Do not use it nilly-willy. Do not use it to just get to the fight 0.2 seconds quicker. Really look to use this. It is such a overpowered W. I'm just blown away by it. But that will wrap up the video. As always, guys, I'm open to all feedback and critique. If you have any questions for me, I'm going to put a link to the Discord as well if you want to check that out. There's a bunch of really fun people in there to kind of find duo queue partners and ask questions, and it's a great little community. That'll wrap up the video. You guys take it easy.